Have you ever tried to bake a cake, but it ended up looking like some failed science experiment? Or when Spanish music comes on and you want a salsa, but you just end up looking like some wild chicken flailing and flopping around the place? Maybe salsa isn't for you. Maybe you're better suited for Zumba. But you shouldn't let that fear of failure stop you from enjoying the joys of dancing and everything else. I mean, how is it that some people can fail over and over and over again and yet still ultimately achieve greatness, while others will fail over and over again and be stuck in a cycle of defeat and despair? The difference is that some people have mastered the art of failure. That's right, failure is an art to be mastered. Let me show you how. So, throwback to a couple years ago when I was 15, I was obsessed with these self-improvement books. I wanted to become this all-powerful, all-knowing Machiavellian supervillain just by learning some books. You know the ones, the 48 Laws of Power, the Awaken the Giant Within, or the Art of War. I mean, what could a 15-year-old possibly need to do with the strategies of war? Even if sometimes high school does feel like a battlefield, that doesn't mean I needed the approaches that those books taught me. Like using ancient Chinese negotiating tactics with my teachers to try and get an extension on some homework didn't get me very far. So while rethinking that cringe-worthy part of my life, an idea came to me. Because we know of books like The Art of War, The Art of Focus, or even The Art of Seduction. So why not The Art of Failure? Because failure, just like all those other virtues, is something that you can master. Think about some of the most famous people in history, people you admire, people you look up to. I'm talking Nelson Mandela, Albert Einstein, Taylor Swift, whoever you're thinking about, I can guarantee you that they have faced struggles, setbacks, and yes, even failures. Take, for example, Thomas Edison, who you just saw for a second. He is the inventor of the light bulb and widely regarded as America's greatest inventor. Now, this man failed 10,000 times before he actually ended up creating the light bulb. That's as if every person in this room had 50 ideas and each and every one of them failed. Well, 40. I'm not good at math. But when a reporter asked him, "Mr. Edison, how does it feel to fail so many times before actually inventing the light bulb?" He famously responded, "I didn't fail 10,000 times. The light bulb is simply an invention with 10,000 steps." Or what about Oprah? Oprah Winfrey is no doubt one of the most influential women of the modern age. From having her own production company, wildly successful, to having one of the longest running daytime talk shows in television history. But at age 23, she was fired from her job as a news reporter in Baltimore and was told she was unfit for television news. Well, I think the 40 million people who watched her show every week in the US alone might disagree. Or even myself. I applied for the TEDx idea competition when I was 13 years old and obsessed with Greta Thunberg. No response. I applied again last year with the idea that our parents should download TikTok, and I made it to the finals, but I didn't get it. So I applied again one more time this year, I made it to the finals, and, well, here I am. So all of these are very recent, modern examples of failure, but it has always been around. Back in ancient Greece was a man called Demosthenes. Demosthenes wanted to become an orator, a great one at that, but there was a problem. He suffered from speech impediments, a lisp and a stutter, which made it hard for him to speak fluently and clearly. When he was called up to speak, he was mocked by his peers. They would imitate and ridicule the way that he spoke, and they would make fun of the way he pronounced certain words and sounds. I'm sure some of us know that feeling of humiliation, of frustration, but of most of all, helplessness. And while most people would have let that constant mockery get to them, let it shatter their aspirations, Demosthenes used it as a source of motivation, a source of inspiration. He would go as far as practice speaking with pebbles in his mouth and shouting above the roars of the ocean waves. He then became renowned as one of the greatest orators in ancient Greece. His powerful speeches would not only captivate the audience's attention, but also sway the public's opinion. So what these examples show us is that failure really isn't the opposite of success, but rather necessary if we really want to achieve it. One of the most fascinating aspects of our brain is something called neuroplasticity. Now, I'm aware neuroplasticity sounds like some big, complicated science term, at least it does to me, but it's actually quite simple to understand. It's our brain's amazing ability to adapt and change when we experience things and learn things. So through this process, we actually undergo changes that enhance our cognitive flexibility, our resilience, and our learning. Basically, every time we fail, we get our brains stronger, more resilient, and more flexible than ever before. Like, say you're learning to play the guitar. Each time you make a mistake with a chord, your brain is actively processing that feedback and making adjustments. If you continue to practice, learn from your mistakes, you will eventually master the chords and hopefully become the next Jimi Hendrix. So, neuroplasticity can be stimulated at all ages, if you are wondering. So whether you are a toddler trying to talk, a student trying to study, or a man trying to multitask, just remember that every failure is a chance to strengthen your brain and become more resilient. But not only does failure help motivate us to succeed and make our brain stronger, it also strengthens the bonds between us. It can help unite people who are facing those similar challenges. If a football team failed at the big game, it gives both them and their supporters the opportunity to come together and support one another. Because when we fail, all we want is to be comforted, to be reassured, and to be told that everything is going to be okay. Our friends and our family can provide that comfort and reassurance. So without failure, those bonds between us will begin to fade. But wait, is all of that even true? Let's look into the fantasy realm for a moment. I'd like everybody to close their eyes. Everybody. When I still see some eyes open. All right, so picture a world without failure. At first, you might be thinking, this is totally awesome. No more failure. I could do whatever I want. I could be a lawyer. I could be a doctor. I could be Oprah. I could be whoever that I want to be because I cannot fail. Isn't that amazing? I mean, I wouldn't have to overcome any more obstacles, and I wouldn't even need my creativity or my imagination to solve my problems. Wait. If there's no more creativity left in the world, wouldn't that mean that all innovation and originality cease to exist? And all achievement would lose meaning? If everyone constantly succeeded, would we even have anything left to celebrate? You know, I'm sure we've all heard the words, don't back down, keep on going, and never give up. Well, I think you should give up. Sometimes. If something that you're struggling to find motivation for is causing you unnecessary stress and anxiety, then why not give up? Giving up gives you the opportunity to redirect your energy to things that you could actually excel in. A quote from Einstein that I love is, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's a failure. For instance, some of you may know of the emerging actress and comedian Iowa Debery. She recently won a Golden Globe, an Emmy, and a Critics' Choice for her role on the show The Bear. Now, Ayo's parents come from Barbados and Nigeria, and they emigrated to the United States before she was born. They had big hopes for their little girl, for her to be a lawyer, a scientist, an accountant. So you can imagine their surprise when she told them she wanted to do improv. But then she actually had a change of mind and decided she wanted to try English teaching. So she went on to do her student teaching when she came to the shocking discovery that teenagers are mean. So she decided to try a different career and tried out acting, which turned out pretty good for her. So while she may have failed at teaching, it gave her an opportunity to try something new, something she would eventually excel in. Part of the art of failure is knowing when to give up or when to keep persisting. But how do we know when to do which? A few years ago, every student in my grade was given the option to either continue studying normal level maths or switch to a more advanced course. For context, all of my friends are phenomenal at mathematics. and I'm about as good as maths as a fish is at climbing trees, so naturally they chose the advanced course. Me being the jittery and insecure 14-year-old that I was at the time, I also decided to take the advanced course. I just couldn't help comparing myself to them. So, big mistake, I spent the next 2 years of my life under constant stress about upcoming test dates, pending assignments, and unfinished classwork. I kid you not, I would have nightmares in the middle of the night about binomial probability and the derivatives of a function. So, when the opportunity came around for me to switch into the lower level, I took my chance and ran. So, time warp to today, maths is still definitely one of my worst subjects, but I do have more time and energy to focus on things that I actually enjoy, like my drama class. So, comparison is the thief of joy. If you're constantly comparing yourself with other people, like how I did with my friends, you will end up feeling envious and inadequate. So don't constantly try to compete and compare yourself with other people because success and failure looks different to everyone. A 7 out of 10 on a test could be a total victory for one kid and a complete catastrophe for another. Because while giving up is synonymous to failing, it gives us the chance to better ourselves. So why are we still so afraid of failure? The answer is simple, really. I mean, the fear of judgment, embarrassment, disappointment, rejection, the list just goes on. But I'm not saying that we should ignore those fears, but rather accept them for what they are. Now, I can yap on for hours about how good and necessary that failure really is, but at the end of the day, it's you who has to change your perspective on failure. Now, I know that seems like quite a big task, so let's focus on 2 small things that you can change in your day-to-day life. The next time you skip the gym, miss a deadline, any small little failures that make you feel slightly worse about yourself, just remember your new angle on failure and use it to justify them. Trust yourself and it will work. And so the next time you catch yourself wondering if you should give up or continue going, ask yourself the question, is this something that I truly want to do? If the answer is yes, then without a doubt, keep on going. But if you're not sure, then ask yourself another question. Is the pursuit of this goal causing more harm than good? And if your answer is yes, then I think you know what to do. Don't think of failure as something that you should be scared of. Think of not trying it in the first place as the thing that you should be scared of. Because failure is a myth. It's a concept created by some mischievous leprechaun who wants to try and limit your full potential. And once you realize that and overcome your fear of failure, recognize that it really isn't that deep, and just take in account that you're changing your perspective, then you have officially practiced the art of failure. Thank you.